This is not art. Do not call this art. Hallucinating broken AI models and industrial noise, we are pulling you out of the noise of everyday spoon-fed algorithms, and we are tuning directly into the underground, static-laced frequency.
It's a transmission that actively resists the modern era of corporate polish.
Decode the creator's original notebook manifesto and really dissect their specific release, which is titled 4.
We are examining an uncompromising vision of a physical and emotional landscape.
And it's filtered through early flawed technology, right? Set to this minimal ethereal techno.
It basically refuses to smile for the camera.
The Stringfisher project claims, explicitly and repeatedly, that by its own definition, it is not art. The exact quote is, at its core, it is not art. By any definition of the word, it cannot be classified as art. Far from it.
If we look at the actual procedural methodology the creator outlines, the distinction between art and what they are doing becomes highly technical rather than just, semantic posturing. They draw a very hard line between an artist's creation and an artist's production.
A creation versus a production.
Exactly. A creation implies something conjured from the ether, like an expressive, deeply personal outpouring that relies on the romantic myth of the solitary genius.
It implies a sort of preciousness.
Yes, preciousness is the perfect word. What's fascinating here is the tension between the organic impulse and the mechanical execution. The creator actually admits they are driven purely by the muse and a heavy dose of, well, why the fuck not?
So the inception is human.
Yes, the inception is human, the music is performed live by human hands. But the moment that human impulse is recorded, it is subjected to this rigid industrial manufacturing process.
The creator explicitly states that the music alone isn't the finished piece. Right. Like, it requires a specific visual wrapper to be complete.
Right, the audio and visual are intrinsically linked.
But they aren't painting covers or shooting, glossy 4K music videos. They're using archaic AI models. They specifically cite models akin to Stable Diffusion 0.0001. And I just have to ask, why?
But Stringfisher is actively seeking that friction. In early AI, the latent space, which is the mathematical representation of the data, was incredibly fragile. When you pushed it too hard, it just couldn't converge on a coherent image.
So it would just break down.
It produced visual artifacts, warped geometries, structural impossibilities. A logic fold is a moment where the neural network's understanding of physics and reality literally collapses in on itself.
And they are deliberately triggering these collapses, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Because the manifesto talks about feeding the system nonsensical prompts and strings specifically to force the machine to break. They aren't asking the AI to draw a nice landscape.
No, they're throwing a wrench into the gears to see what kind of sparks fly out.
Is Stringfisher using this ancient AI as digital salvage?
It perfectly encapsulates the process. They force the machine to generate hundreds of these collapsed, hallucinated images, but then they apply a draconian curation process. Out of every 100 broken images, maybe only 10 are deemed worthy of passing a brief.
Wow. So they're setting up a factory that produces controlled errors.
Exactly. And then they are acting as the brutal quality control manager at the end of the line. The machine provides the digital distortion, the ghost in the machine, and the human sets the threshold for what constitutes an acceptable glitch.
So the visual is this highly curated, broken digital artifact. But let's bring it back to the audio, because the human-made music undergoes its own brutalist processing, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not a delicate acoustic session.
The music is performed live, but then it is subjected to what they call the FL Studio treatment. The creator describes this as tempering the sound into a workable place.
Yes, tempering.
When a creator uses a word like tempered in the context of FL Studio, they aren't talking about gently applying a high-pass filter.
Precisely. In metallurgy, tempering is the violent process of heating and cooling metal to increase its toughness and decrease its brittleness. It is a heavy industrial forging process.
And translating that to audio.
When we translate that into the architecture of FL Studio, we are talking about aggressive dynamic manipulation. We are talking about pushing live organic waveforms through digital limiters, utilizing hard clipping, multiband compression, and heavy saturation plugins to essentially square off the transients.
So they take the raw emotional vulnerability of a live synth performance and they forcibly compress it into this rigid, unyielding sonic block. It is the synthesis of a human emotional core locked inside a heavy, industrialized exoskeleton. This brings us to the release titled Vor. Now, Vor is the Icelandic word for spring. But the creator's biography provides a context that completely shatters any preconceived notions of what spring actually means in this setting.
Geography is the absolute bedrock here. It's the fundamental operating system of this entire release.
Well, let's talk about that physical transition.
The notebook details a massive structural pivot in the creator's physical reality. Southport is characterized by faded Victorian grandeur, expansive tidal flats, a very specific Northern English melancholia, and the slow, rhythmic washing of the Irish Sea. And then you transplant that entire sensory apparatus into Reykjavík.
A city perched on a jagged volcanic island in the North Atlantic.
It wasn't about finding a muse on a mountain. And the inspirations listed for Vor perfectly reflect this grounded, boots-on-the-pavement reality. Modern digital media has completely fetishized Iceland.
Oh, absolutely. It has been algorithmically flattened into an influencer playground. You just see endless, sweeping drone footage of pristine glaciers.
And that framing completely changes how we have to interpret the concept of spring here.
Yeah, because in a temperate climate, spring is a gentle, organic fading of winter.
In Iceland, spring is a physical collision. Spring in Reykjavík is not a pleasant season, it is a structural event. It is the sound of millions of tons of ice cracking under geothermal pressure. It is the sudden release of tension.
And when the physical environment goes through that kind of violent phase change, the acoustic environment changes with it.
The ground literally shifts beneath your feet.
And this raw, unpolished, creaking reality of the city's thaw is exactly what drives the sonic architecture of the Vor release. The release opens with a thematic pairing. We have the tracks Time Waits and March to the Start.
Right.
The creator describes Time Waits as capturing life returning. They talk about the earth creaking to the rhythm of Iceland warming and growing.
The operative word there is definitely creaking.
Yeah.
Creaking implies immense mass resisting movement. It implies friction, strain, and geological weight.
Translating that geological friction into minimal ethereal techno requires very specific frequency management.
The creator isn't using rapid, syncopated hi-hats here. A track designed to sound like the earth creaking relies on subharmonic frequencies.
Low-frequency oscillators.
Right, oscillators that operate almost below the threshold of human hearing, where the sound is actually felt in the chest cavity, rather than processed by the eardrum.
It is the heavy, slow, reluctant awakening of a massive physical object.
The sequencer hits us with March to the Start. This track takes that environmental pressure and applies it directly to the human beings who are forced to navigate it. The notebook says this track is about the people of Reykjavík pushing themselves forward through the turbulent weather patterns associated to spring in Iceland.
The driving force of the population is described as unyielding, unbending, steady, and purposeful.
This really highlights why the techno framework is not just a stylistic choice, but a narrative necessity. It's a relentless, unyielding, mathematically precise forward momentum. By deploying this specific rhythmic structure, Stringfisher is sonically mapping human persistence. The rigid, repetitive kick drum of March to the Start is the auditory equivalent of that physical resistance. It is survival distilled into a tempo. These tracks are fascinating because they attempt to capture the emotional residue of a location, rather than just providing a visual or literal representation.
The contrast is vital for the ecosystem of the album, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, after months of near total darkness and absolute cold, the return of ambient light in the North Atlantic is a profound psychological resurrection.
It's basically a chemical shift in the brain.
Yeah. It's an inherently alien, minimal, but deeply profound sensory experience.
But how do you translate that into the ethereal side of this minimal techno release, like sonically?
You utilize spatial processing and modulation. To create the feeling of being suspended in warm water against a freezing backdrop, a producer will employ expansive, highly diffuse reverb tails on the higher frequency synth pads, while keeping the low-end kick drum completely dry and centered.
Ah, so the kick drum is the physical reality.
Right, the dry low end anchors you, representing the physical reality of the pool, while the modulated floating pads represent the surreal, weightless joy of the thermal heat rising into the cold air. The ethereal elements are deployed specifically to replicate that precise thermal dynamic.
That concept of capturing the specific dynamic of a physical space leads perfectly into the track Perlan. For context, Perlan is a massive, futuristic glass dome structure built on top of 6 colossal hot water storage tanks on a hill overlooking Reykjavík.
It's a major architectural landmark.
They write, note, this isn't a tourist review of Perlan, it is the feeling of Perlan.
That distinction is basically the Rosetta Stone for the entire Stringfisher project.
A tourist review versus a feeling.
A tourist review is objective, visual, informational. It is metadata. The feeling of Perlan is psychoacoustic architecture. It is completely subjective.
Okay, unpack the psychoacoustic part.
The creator is attempting to synthesize the acoustic resonance of sitting beneath thousands of square feet of curved glass. It is about the sensation of immense, echoing scale, the quality of light refracting through the structure, and the feeling of being safely enclosed in a hyper-modern bubble while an ancient, hostile weather system just rages outside the glass.
We have Hangover Drive and Stealth Creeper.
We need to spend a lot of time on Hangover Drive.
I agree, because this feels like the absolute thesis statement of the anti-postcard movement.
Hangover Drive is unequivocally the anchor of the Vor release. The manifesto explicitly states this is a reflection on the industrial side of the city, the part the tourist brochures fail to mention.
And the inspirational anchor is hyper-specific.
Oh.
They mention a particularly foggy day and the sound of the passing ships sounding their foghorns on the way to drop off cargo at the docks.
Yeah, we have completely abandoned the ethereal mountains and the glass domes now.
Is Stringfisher suggesting that the true heart of Reykjavík is industrial rather than natural?
That's a fascinating interpretation.
I mean, is the project arguing that the concrete docks and the massive diesel engines of the cargo ships are somehow more authentic than the waterfalls and the glaciers?
It is a nuanced distinction. I don't think the project is necessarily arguing that the industrial sector is more authentic, but it is fiercely arguing that the industrial sector is an inseparable, equally vital organ of the city that is systematically erased by the external gaze. Think about the physical properties of sound in dense fog. The suspended water droplets deaden and absorb high frequencies, creating a muffled, claustrophobic atmosphere.
Everything sounds padded.
Exactly. But low-end frequencies, like the immense, sustained rumble of a foghorn or a massive ship engine, they have wavelengths long enough to diffract around obstacles and cut straight through the fog.
So the fog acts as a natural low-pass filter. It strips away all the light, airy sounds and leaves only the heavy, terrifying rumble of the industrial machinery.
Yeah.
You cannot take an album built on the acoustics of foghorns, the anxiety of unmapped industrial zones, and the violent creaking of a geological thaw, and just hand it over to a standard corporate PR firm to run a TikTok dance challenge.
Artrut is arguably the most radical and subversive concept detailed in this entire manifesto.
Okay, define it for us.
When directly asked what the term means, the creator defines it as the human-regulated automation that allows the Stringfisher project to eat its own tail quicker.
The human sets the initial parameters, but the machine executes the repetitive heavy lifting.
It implies a closed-loop system, doesn't it?
It does. You take a little bit of raw flour and water, which in this case would be a broken, hallucinated AI image, and a snippet of tempered audio, and you feed it to the culture.
And you just let it ferment.
Right, you let the bacteria ferment and multiply on its own. It creates its own expanding ecosystem, its own atmosphere. Is the creator basically using automation to let the project ferment on the internet without having to manually curate every single Instagram post?
That is exactly how it functions. And the creator actually provides the theoretical lineage for this approach by discussing their own background.
Oh, the art school connection.
They describe themselves as an old art student with few ideas who is actively taking their understanding of Andy Warhol's process and applying it to modern digital media production.
That is a crucial connection. Because if you think about Warhol's factory in the 1960s,
He mass-produced images, the Campbell soup cans, the Marilyn Monroe portraits.
right, using the industrial process of silk screening. He automated the creation of the image to comment on the algorithmic homogeneity of consumerism. Warhol turned the promotion of the art, the parties, the press, into an extension of the art itself.
Yes, Stringfisher is upgrading that exact philosophy for the AKI-driven social media age.
Because the manifesto states that they treat the marketing posts themselves as components of the production. They aren't adverts, they are the art. They write, "When deemed worthy, Andy Warhol would sign his name. When I deem it in line with the overall brief, I sign it Stringfisher."
They are taking the mundane, usually soul-crushing act of social media promotion and turning it into an automated, curated performance of static and glitches.
This raises an important question. If the marketing is mathematically designed to be a hostile, hallucinating performance, and the project is designed to eat its own tail through automation, what is the ultimate strategic goal?
I have a problem with the confining way distribution strangles the creative reach of the artist in charge. Modern distribution platforms operate on algorithmic strangulation.
They dictate the terms of engagement.
Absolutely. They demand specific track lengths to maximize stream revenue. They demand specific intro structures to prevent skips within the first 30 seconds.
The dreaded 30-second skip rule.
And they demand a constant, exhausting stream of parasocial content from the artist just to feed the algorithm.
The creator argues, I walk into a gallery and every painting is not a portrait. If they were all selfies, I'd get bored easy. Stringfisher is its own identity.
We are existing in an era where every single musician is expected to be a highly visible, instantly accessible influencer.
Oh, they're expected to constantly vlog their studio sessions, trauma dump on camera, to build parasocial bonds with teenagers, and essentially perform their personality as a product.
Stringfisher responds to that demand by erecting a massive wall of glitching, 0.0001 AI static. They note they might appear eventually, but it's entirely irrelevant to the current signal.
It is a massive rejection of what they call somebody else's drum. The creator states, I just think that some things emerge from a natural state and others are made to a beat of somebody else's drum.
Conventional music promotion requires you to march to the platform's drum beat.
Stringfisher's approach is akin to planting a metallic seed in the concrete of a cargo dock and walking away. If it grows in its natural, brutalist state.
Begs a massive question about the audience.
Yeah, if you refuse to optimize for the algorithm, who on earth are you actually trying to reach?
The creator answers this question with a bluntness that borders on statistical cruelty.
They really do. What do they say?
They state, listen, there's a couple of billion people out there. I'm just looking for my 1%.
The 1% is the demographic that is actively starved for friction. They want the heavy, creaking, unyielding reality.
We've examined the forensic, destructive use of early AI models to visualize human-crafted, heavily tempered, minimal techno.
It is ultimately a masterclass in controlled aesthetics and boundary setting. By strictly defining exactly what the project is not, the creator has forged an incredibly dense, unified vision of what it is. It is a vital, urgent challenge for our current era, I think. We exist in a digital ecosystem where every piece of media we consume is endlessly polished, color-corrected, pitch-shifted, and algorithmically smoothed out to eliminate any possible friction.
We have been trained to be terrified of the unoptimized.
But the Stringfisher project forcefully argues that the true value, the actual emotional resonance of a physical space or a human experience, is found entirely within its static. It's found in its errors, its unyielding creases, and its heavy industrial realities. I want you to genuinely look at your own media diet. Look at the content you consume, the music you let algorithms feed you, the images you passively scroll past. Has it become too clean?
Have we lost our tolerance for the rough edges?
Has all the friction been entirely sanded away by the platforms you use? Consider what hidden, complex, heavily tempered realities you might be completely missing